Hello, everybody. Welcome to Core Balance Celebrate. We're celebrating this week because as we transition into the end of May and beginning of June, a lot of people are celebrating going back to work, celebrating graduations, you name it. So we are just going to dive right into class today. Beginning in a seated, cross-legged position, get nice and comfortable, and we're going to breathe all the way in and up, big deep breath, palms meeting at the top, and then bringing those hands down at heart center. Just finding that breath to start class off. Once more, breathing in and up, all the way up nice and tall, stretching those fingers, palms meet at the top, and then bringing the hands down at heart center. From here, go ahead and roll out your neck, maybe taking it in circles or semicircles, making sure to switch directions at some point. This part is completely up to you, just whatever feels good. Maybe twisting and turning the head from side to side, or bringing the chin down to your chest and the crown of your head back to the top of your shoulders, whatever feels good. One more deep breath in, all the way up, nice and tall. And this time as we come down, we're actually going to paint a rainbow over to the right side. So keep that chest lifted, shoulders back, just feeling that stretch through the side body. Big deep breath in as we come up, and hands in the lap. One more big deep breath in, this time painting that rainbow over to the other side. Chest stays open. Feeling that stretch, breathing in as we come up, and hands back in our lap or heart center. Settling in here one more time, all the way in and up with that breath, painting that rainbow over to the right side. This time going a little bit farther and flowing up and down just a little bit more. Deep breath in as we come all the way up and over. Exhale to the left. Deep breath in as we come up slightly and exhale a little bit deeper into that pose before we come all the way back up to that seated position. Big cleansing breath up to the top, and hands come down at heart center. Bringing those hands back behind us now, propping ourselves up, getting in a comfortable position. Turn those fingertips in toward your backside and toward your body. And once you're comfortable, you're going to take that crown of your head and send it back to the tops of the shoulders, really opening up. You're going to feel it across the chest, through the shoulders, feeling that opening across the front of the throat. And just relax here in a reclined, modified camel, a seated camel pose. Keeping those fingers splayed nice and wide, and release up to a seated. Breathe in and up. And in the opposite direction now, we're going to forward fold with our seated position here, just feeling that extension through our spine, walking the fingertips out. And from that center, we're going to walk the fingertips over to the right side, settling in. Fingertips back to center, feeling that stretch. And then walking the fingertips over to the left side, really feeling that pull through our side body and through our shoulders. Gently walk it back to the center of the mat. And little at a time, just pushing yourself back to that seated position, rolling the shoulders and sitting up nice and tall. Go ahead and switch which leg is in front. We're going to repeat this process, breathing all the way in and up. And send it forward, seated forward fold. You're really going to feel this in that opposite hip this time. With those fingertips at the center, go ahead and walk them out to the right, settling in. Nice deep breath in and out. On that exhale, walking it back to the center. Another deep breath in and out. And on that exhale, walking over to the left. Remembering to breathe. And then coming back to that center, that neutral. And gently push it back up to a seated position. At your own pace, however you want to get there, we're going to come over onto all fours. Just the same as always, stacking those knees under the hips. The wrists, the elbows, and the shoulders are all stacked in a straight line. And we're going to do some cat and cow. So as we breathe in, lower that stomach down toward the mat, send that gaze up toward the ceiling or the sky. And on that exhale, rounding the back over like a cat, forcing all that breath out. Continue at your own pace. As we lower the belly down, expanding, we're breathing in. And as we're rounding over and contracting, we're sending all of that air out. Keep this up at your own pace, pushing away from the earth. Belly lowers, breathing in. And as the back rounds over, breathing out. Now with a neutral spine, we're going to send the head and the hips over in the same direction. So twisting over to the right, making a C with our body, and then releasing and transitioning over to the left with our head and our hips. And just continue this, opening up that spine from side to side. Continuing to breathe as we do so. Good. Next, I'd like you to come up onto your knees, breathing all the way in and up. We're going to do a half true camel. So just taking that right hand down to the heels of your foot, sending it back, and then flowing from side to side, following your breath. Taking that left hand down to the back of the heel, breathing in as we're coming back up. Once more, exhale, lowering down, right hand to right heel. Inhale up. And as we exhale, sending it back, left hand to left heel. And breathing it back up. Great work. Drop those hands down to our hips here. And preparing ourselves for true camel, we're going to support the back of the spine, sending it back, opening across the front of the chest, trusting yourself, trusting that core to hold you. And as we release, we're going to open up the shoulders just a bit more before we settle into that full camel, taking the arms across the front of the body as long as you need. Maybe taking each arm back between the shoulder blades, really opening up those shoulders, loosening up for full camel. Good. And when you're ready, we're going to breathe all the way in and up. This time, both hands come back behind, supporting the spine one more time. And release. Hands down the sides, breathing in and up. Left hand back to the heel, keeping the hand there, right hand back to right heel. Full camel. If this isn't comfortable, just continue to do from side to side or the supported hips and release. Hands at heart center. Go ahead and shake it out. That one's definitely not easy. Coming back to all fours, we're going to settle into a plank here. Just kind of playing with your positioning of your hands and your feet, but remember to keep those starfish hands. Right hand is going to plant in the center of the mat, and in a side plank, stacked plank, we're going to open up to that right side, left hand up in the air. When you've got the balance, take a nice deep breath in, and exhale, send that upper hand down, threading the needle under the body, and back up. I promise you can do it. Dropping that hand back down in that full plank, repositioning the hands, stretching it out a little bit if you need. And when you're ready, left hand this time, planting in the middle of the mat, finding that balance and opening up, right hand coming up toward the sky. When you're feeling strong and sturdy, deep breath in, and on the exhale, threading that right hand under the body like a needle and thread. Inhale, opening back up, and exhale, bringing both hands down to the mat. Drop the knees, sending it back into a child's pose. Extended child's pose with the fingers spread out in front of us, really pulling through those shoulders. Dropping those hips back between our feet. Inching forward little by little, slithering into a cobra, keeping that chest lifted up off the mat. And then carefully lower back down to the ground, pushing up into a perfect plank. We're going to do those side planks a couple more times. Right hand planting in the middle of the mat, opening up, lifting that left hand in the air, and at your own pace, just cycling that upper hand down under the body, back up to the sky, and cycling the hand back down to the mat. When you're ready, opposite hand, left hand planting in the middle of the mat, opening up, upper hand down and through, back up, and cycling into that plank. Drop those knees, and then transition right into those cat and cows again. Bringing some flexibility into the spine, finding that breath, remembering that when we lower our belly down toward the earth, we're taking a full breath in as we expand that chest, and as we round over and contract the body, we're forcing that air out in an exhale. Send it back into a child's pose, hands back behind you. And from this child's pose, we're going to drive the top of our head into the mat, lifting our backside slightly with a very soft, gentle stretch in the back of the neck in a rabbit pose. Being very mindful of our neck and our head and our spine. Just continuing to hold this pose, finding that breath, and gently releasing, pushing away from the mat with our hands, coming up out of that pose, and sending it into an extended child's pose. Fingertips pulling little by little farther away from the body out in front of us. Weight settling in through our hips, down between our feet. From here, dropping those forearms down to the mat, curling those toes under, sending that tailbone up toward the sky in puppy pose. Feeling that stretch through the shoulders, through the spine. And when you're ready, we're going to come up onto the hands, lifting up into a true downward dog. Go ahead and pedal out the feet. Remember, push away from the mat, tailbone up toward the sky, and the head just dangling, almost looking in toward your belly button just to relax the neck. Similarly to what we've done in the past, I want you to think about transitioning that weight over into one of your legs, starting with the right leg. And when you're ready, we're going to lift the left leg up into a three-legged dog, and then send that foot back behind us, almost like a dog at a fire hydrant. I know it's silly, but it's a really great stretch. Transitioning that leg back into that three-legged dog, and carefully dropping it back down into a downward dog. Go ahead and take the right hand, reaching back, tapping the left ankle, and then bringing the hand back into that neutral position. Pump out the heels a couple times. Send that weight into the left leg, this time lifting the right up into the air. Bringing the leg back into that fire hydrant, and then transitioning slowly back into the three-legged dog and the downward dog. From downward dog, taking that left hand, reaching back, tapping the right ankle this time, and hand back to neutral. From here, we're going to lower down to a plank, and from plank, pushing up into a cobra or an upward dog. I'd like to invite you all to drop down on your belly, propping yourself up with your elbows, and just roll out the wrists, maybe massage the hands or the forearms, just really taking that tension out of our hands. Do whatever you need to do, whatever feels good. And when you're ready, bring those hands in toward the chest, locking those elbows in, and from here push up into a plank position, and from plank back into downward dog. Send that weight into the right leg, lifting the left leg up, sending it back into that fire hydrant pose, really settling into that stretch before we transition back to the three-legged dog, and from three-legged dog back to downward dog. Right hand comes back to tap the left ankle, and then the hands back to neutral. Driving that left leg down into the earth this time. When you're ready, lifting the right leg up toward the sky, sending it back into that hydrant, feeling that stretch, stay strong. Leg transitions back to three-legged dog, and from three-legged dog back down to downward dog. Left hand this time comes back to tap the right ankle, and then the hands back to neutral. Slowly, 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 little tiny baby steps, walk up toward the top of our mats. And while we're in this forward fold, take a moment just to cradle the elbows, cradle the forearms, and take a gentle rocking motion from side to side, letting gravity pull and lengthen that spine, feeling that stretch through our hamstrings. And when you're ready, one vertebra at a time, being very careful as we're coming up to standing, that the head is the last thing to rise. From the top of our mat, we're just going to bring the hands to the stomach and the diaphragm, feeling that breath. Taking a little bit of a reset as we reach about halfway. When we're ready, dropping those hands down to the sides, palms out. And going from side to side, left to right, just twisting, 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 letting those hands and those wrists kind of ragdoll around as we knock on heaven's door here. Just feeling that centrifugal force, kind of driving that circulation through our hands and our arms. Also keeping that core engaged as we're twisting. Loosening up the spine, loosening up the shoulders. Just have fun with it. Give yourself a little smile. And when you're ready, we're going to take it into a wide stance across the width of our mat. Breathe in and up. And on that exhale, we're going to settle it down into a goddess pose. It's like a wide-legged squat, but really drive that weight down into the heels. Lifting that chest. And from here, breathing all the way in and up. Hands at heart center in that wide-legged stance. Once more, breathing in and up. Settling down into that wide-legged squat, that goddess pose. Lifting that chest. Dropping that tailbone. And release. Coming out to that standing, breathing in. Hands at heart center. Again, breathing in and up, down into goddess, settling a little deeper if you can, driving that weight through the heels and the backside. And from here, go ahead and release into a wide-legged fold. The aim here is for you to draw your body in as close to your legs as possible while keeping your balance, trying to look past yourself up at the ceiling or the sky behind you. From here, we're going to take some shallow side lunges, just from side to side as you feel comfortable. Sending that weight as we lean into the left and lean into the right a couple times at your own pace. Keep it going just at your own pace, from left to right, really feeling that opening on the insides of the hips. And then bringing it into a neutral position. This time, as we rise up, our hands are going to come up overhead, and in a sweeping motion, we're going to send it back down toward the floor, arms kind of cross, and then back up in sunflower. Continuing to do this, breathing in as we come up, and exhaling as we come down, just sweeping the ground. A few more times, sweeping the ground and up. Exhale, sweep the ground, inhale up. And neutral, hands to hips, doing a little standing wide-legged twist, switching sides, twisting to the opposite direction, and release. Coming to the top of our mats now, finding that breath, hands to the side, palms facing out, lift that chin as we breathe all the way in and up, sending it forward in a forward fold. Hands coming down to the mat as we step back into a plank. And from plank, sending it into a downward dog, this time taking your feet about as wide as your mat or wider in a wide-legged downward dog. I know it doesn't sound groundbreaking, but it feels really good. It's a great way to practice bringing those heels down toward the mat like you want in a traditional downward dog, but this kind of takes some of that tension out of our hamstrings. Continuing to hang out here, pressing away from the hands, tailbone coming up toward the sky. Just relax the head and the neck. And when you're ready, we're going to bring the forearms down to the mat, putting the elbows and the forearms about where the hands were. Still staying up on those feet, tailbone up toward the sky, pushing away from the ground on our forearms and our hands in dolphin. It's worth noting that in dolphin, there are two subtle variations. You can leave the hands separate, driving down into the mat, pushing away, or if you'd like to lace the fingers together, joining the hands, almost forming a point, that may provide a little more support for you depending on your preference. When you're ready, slowly release, dropping the knees down to the mat, and bring those hands back behind us in a child's pose. From child's pose, go ahead and bring the hands out in front of your head here and build up a bit of a support for yourself as we transition into a supported rabbit, rolling up onto the top of the head, just as we did before, minding the neck, and continue to breathe. Feeling that stretch in the back of the neck, that rounding of the spine. And slowly release, coming back into that neutral. from here, inching forward, slithering into Cobra. We lift the chest up away from the mat and slowly lower back down to the ground. As we transition from here, go ahead and get comfortable, settling the body into the mat, and lace the fingers back behind the body. You can either place your forehead down on the mat, or you can turn your head either to the right or the left, whatever feels most comfortable to you, and point those toes away from the body. When you're ready, on a big inhale, we're going to lift the legs and lift the torso up away from the mat, centering on our pelvis, continuing to breathe, and on that next big exhale, releasing, slowly lowering down. Once more, big inhale as we lift into locust, driving our core and our pelvis into the mat, and exhale, slowly release. Again, breathing in, big deep breath as we lift into locust, feeling that opening across the back of the shoulders, and release. Relax those hands down to either side of the body. As we're settling in here, getting comfortable, we are going to do some crocodile breathing. So essentially what that means is as we're relaxed here on our stomachs, either the head turned to the right or the left, or centering the forehead on the mat, whichever feels best to you, we're going to take as deep and full of breaths as possible. And as you're taking that breath, you're going to feel that diaphragm slowly pushing you up away from the earth. And as you exhale, slowly sinking you back into your mat. So continuing to do that, strengthening that breath, breathing in, feeling that diaphragm pushing you away from the ground, and exhale, sinking back under the water like a crocodile, melting into the mat. When you're ready, we're going to transition onto a seated position. Bringing the hands under the crease of the knees. Supported, we're going to lift that right leg up, bringing the shin parallel to the sky, and flex the foot, and drop that foot back down to the mat. Opposite side, left leg lifts, flexing the foot, and release, dropping it back down to the mat. Still supported, both legs this time lift as we find that flat spot of our pelvis and our tailbone, staying strong through the core. And when you've got that balance, let go with the hands, sending them out to the sides. Keep that core strength nice and tight here, you guys. Hands back underneath and to a neutral release. This time, either supported or unsupported, bringing it up into that boat pose. And similar to the last class, we're going to lower it down to a low boat and bring it into a high boat, almost like boat pose crunches. If this is too much or you're losing your balance, just hold the pose, trying your best. And release. Reclining back, letting that spine melt into the mat. And sending those feet away from your body, just melting in here, finding that breath. Once you've found that center, we're going to walk the feet in toward the backside, knees coming up to the sky, and topple those knees carefully over to the right. Arms come out to either side, and that top leg, we're going to send the foot out away from the body to the side, enough that we can grab with that hand on that side, grab the foot, pulling it up just a little bit. Release that foot, stacking it back on top of the other, keeping those shoulders pinned down to the mat, lifting the knees up toward the sky, and in the opposite direction this time, toppling those knees over to the left. top leg extends out to the side of the body, high enough that we can grab it with our free hand, pulling up just a little bit farther, continuing to breathe. And release, stacking those legs once more, and bringing those knees back up toward the sky. Windshield wiper legs here, just loosening up the hips, loosening up the lower back, sending those knees from left to right. Hands back to the sides. And from here, we're going to bring those knees in toward our body. Give yourself a little hug. And once you've got your knees in nice and close, go ahead and grab the outside edge of the feet with the hands. And happy baby. You can rock from side to side here. You can extend the feet from one side to the other. Whatever feels good, really play with it. There are no rules for happy baby, as long as you're happy. Extend those legs up toward the sky, flexing and pointing the feet. Our last stretch here with our hamstrings. Grab hold of the feet once more, last happy baby. Stretching those legs, whatever feels good. And when you're ready, go ahead and release the legs and send those feet out with a stomp. Legs away from the body, arms to either side, palms facing up. This is your final moment just to melt into the mat. Think about all that you've accomplished so far this year. It's been a rough ride, but you've made it. There's a lot to celebrate. There's a lot to be thankful and grateful for. I'm sending you positive vibes. I can't wait to see you all in person again. Continue to breathe full breaths. If you'd like, bring the hands to heart center, pushing together those palms, and when you're ready, bringing it up to the forehead, those thumbs pressing into the center of the forehead. Namaste.